Howdy folks, and welcome back to Elite Dangerous with the mighty Jingles. And I realise most of you were probably expecting this video to be coming out tomorrow on Saturday, which has been the routine for the last couple of weeks. But I think tomorrow I want to continue the Resident Evil 3 remake playthrough, so Elite today. Anyway, we're finally done with that Git Marco Gwent. And in order to unlock my next 2 engineers, I'm going to require 25 for each engineer, so 50 in total. Thargoid sensor fragments, so they're not asking for much. Anything to do with the Thargoids is seriously bad news. They're the enigmatic aliens who've been popping up in the Elite series since day one, and they're always badasses. However, you don't actually have to shoot down a Thargoid ship in order to recover sensor fragments. Other people have done it for you. So all you really need to do is find one of these other Thargoid ships that somebody else has taken the trouble of shooting down for you and scavenge the wreckage. So that means we're heading to the Pleiades sector, a hotbed of Thargoid activity. And I really mean it, I'm not joking. As I'm doing a filtered spectral scan of this system, I notice a lot of very unusually spaced out unidentified signal sources. These kids, non-human signal sources, these are Thargoids. The system is crawling with them. Threat level 4. Threat level, what? 7? I didn't even know it went up to 7. Seriously. I've never seen a threat level 7 signal source before. But where there are Thargoids, there are threat level 7 and higher unidentified signals. I really don't want to be messing with those. So we're just going to head straight on to my destination. This is the HIP 17403 system and the romantically named Planet A4A. As you can see, I've already mapped the surface of the planet with the detailed surface scanner. Not that you actually need to, but I may as well get the navigational data while I'm here. Because once you're close enough, the crashed Thargoid ship on the surface will show up as a point of interest. Now, I do hope you remembered to equip your ship with a planetary vehicle hangar and at least one Scarab surface reconnaissance vehicle, because if you didn't, it's a long trip to the nearest station where you can buy one. Now, I have faced the Thargoids before. I faced them in the original Elite. I faced them in the sequel, Elite 2 Frontier. But I've not faced them in Elite Dangerous. All I know about the Thargoids, based on my own experience from the previous Elite games, is that you really don't want to fuck with them. What I know of them, based on what I've read and seen on YouTube, in this Elite game, is that you really don't want to fuck with them. That doesn't mean that people don't, of course. There are some players who are very successful going after Thargoids. And they even have their own Discord. I think they call it the Xeno Hunters, or something like that. But, well, you need a highly specialised ship and setup if you're going to tackle with the Thargoids in a serious way and not get your ass handed to you, because the majority of human weapons are completely ineffective against them. And certainly my Asp Explorer, it's not even set up to fight human ships, let alone Thargoid ships, so I'm going to be really careful here. I mean, technically this is a crashed Thargoid ship, but that doesn't mean it isn't dangerous. I'm not going to land until I've had a good look. I'm going to do a slow circle while we check things out. You know, I can remember fighting the Thargoids in the first Elite game. What? What do you mean, ship scan detected? Nothing in the contacts panel. Ooh, you see what I mean? This is why I'm being careful. Yeah. See, in the original Elite, you didn't go looking for Thargoids. What would happen is that there was a very, very small chance that every time you made a hyperspace jump, your jump drive would malfunction, and you end up in something that was known as witch space, and that's where the Thargoids live. And witch space was basically filled with Thargoid ships that would come after you until you died. It got to the point in the original Elite, and I'm talking about the 1980s game here, the one with wireframe graphics. I mean, we're talking so long ago that some of you will probably have to Google what wireframe graphics even are. But I got quite good at it, and I could kill Thargoid motherships. Of course, it was a completely pointless exercise, because once you were in witch space, there was no way of getting out. There were no familiar stars to navigate by. You couldn't jump anywhere from witch space. And you were basically there until the Thargoids overwhelmed you. Regardless of how good your ship was, or how good you were at flying it, at some point you were going to die. Which again gives you some idea of just how old the original Elite was, because the two developers, and there were just two developers, David Braben and Ian Bell, they basically wrote the game in their bedrooms. They'd put the whole idea of the Thargoids and jump drive malfunctions and witch space in as a sort of fuck you. You know, if it happened to you, that was it, game over. The kind of thing that people just wouldn't stand for these days, but which were fairly standard in games in the 80s. Well, Frontier Elite 2 came around many, many years later, and the Thargoids were back, only this time there was no jump drive failures and getting stuck in witch space. No, the Thargoids were here. And is that a crashed or shot down Anaconda ahead? I think it is. Well, they shot down the Thargoid whatever it is, but it didn't go down easily, did it? But yes, in the sequel, Frontier Elite 2, the Thargoids were back. And this time they weren't just confined to witch space. And again, they were absolute badasses. But again, if you'd spent enough money, and had a good enough ship, and you had enough experience flying it, you could go toe-to-toe with Thargoid motherships. Fast forward a few more decades, you have Elite Dangerous, and the Thargoids are back again, and they're even more pissed off than they were in the first two games. Only this time, it doesn't really matter how much money you throw at the problem, or how good you are at flying your ship. And that looks like Thargoid wreckage to me. Yeah. In order to be successful in combat against the Thargoids, you're going to need some serious technology. The kind of technology that you don't just buy, the kind of technology that you have to grind. We're talking Guardian technology here. The Guardians are a sort of precursor race in the Elite universe. They were around before the Thargoids, and is that another crashed Anaconda? It took 2 Anacondas to put this Thargoid ship down. Wow. But yeah, the Guardian tech grind, that's an entirely different can of worms, which we won't be opening in this video. But which at some point I'm definitely going to be doing. Right now, of course, I need me some Thargoid sensor fragments for the engineering grind. 2 engineers, both of whom require 25. Now the thing about these sensor fragments, there are a fair few of them here. Certainly enough for 1 of the 2 engineers. But they don't show up on your sensor panel until you're really close. 2 canisters, Thargoid sensors. Now these are canisters, they're not engineering materials, and this can be quite confusing the first time you arrive here. Because remember, engineering materials don't take up cargo space. Those canisters do take up cargo space. So I'm thinking to myself, hang on a minute, if I'm required to... Oh wow, is that a crashed Type 10 Defender up ahead as well? Do you get the impression that Elite's trying to tell you that these guys are dangerous? With the amount of crashed human ships around this ring. But anyway, I digress. So at this point I'm thinking, well hang on, if these canisters each contain 1 sensor fragment and I have to get 50 in total, my Scarab can only take 2 at a time. If I have to collect 50 of these things, I'm going to be here for hours. And even if I only want to do one of the engineers, like Professor Palin for example, that's still 25 fragments, 25 canisters. That's... oh, hell no. Well, actually no. Although you could be forgiven for thinking that on first arrival. Also, matters aren't exactly helped by the fact that it's not just Thargoid stuff that's scattered around this multiple ship crash site. The cargo racks of the various different human ships that got shot down around here are scattered around the landscape as well. Like that canister of grain over there that's cluttering up my sensor panel. Now what you're actually looking for, things like that. It's a material, doesn't take up cargo space, a sensor fragment. 25 of them. It seems to be tucked right into whatever the hell that is. There we go, do you see it? So I'm going to need to scoop that up. And then another 49 of those. I can just get the SRV in close enough. Got it. Cargo acquired. Right, back up. Find another 49 of those. I said back up. And I'm stuck, aren't I? Try firing the thrusters. Nope. I'm stuck. Oh, wait. Maybe the manoeuvring thrusters. Maybe retract. Maybe I'm stuck on the cargo hatch. Nope. Retracting the cargo hatch hasn't done anything. Trying to fire the thrusters has just tipped me on my side. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I've just managed to successfully execute a Jingles landing in a surface reconnaissance vehicle. Also, what was that noise? Did you hear that noise? Hang on, let me crank the volume up and wait and see if we hear it again. We are absolutely sure this Thargoid ship's dead, right? Well, not that it matters, because I'm dead too unless I can right this SRV. Although technically, I shouldn't be, because even though... Well, this is something that never really made a lot of sense to me about Elite Dangerous, because even though you can see my hands on the controls, and if I look down you can see my feet on the pedals, I'm actually piloting the SRV by telepresence. I'm actually technically still sitting in the cockpit of my ship. So the problem really shouldn't be quite as bad as it looks. Nevertheless, I'm going to have to fix it, and here's how you do it. First, you quit the game completely, right back to the game launcher. Because if you have the Elite Horizons expansion, you also have Elite without the Horizons expansion. So you quit right back to the launcher. You load the game without the Horizons expansion, at which point the game checks to see where your save position is. Hang on, you're on the surface of a planet, but you don't have the Horizons expansion, so we're going to recover you to orbit. So once your save loads, you find yourself back in the orbital plane of the system in which you got yourself stuck in the first place. And you haven't lost your SRV either, because in order to have an SRV, or a planetary vehicle hangar in which to keep an SRV, you must not only have the Horizons expansion installed, but also be playing a version of the game with it enabled, and we're not, so we're quite safe. Of course, in order to get back down to the planet, you're going to have to quit all the way back to the desktop again, and this time, when you launch the game, ensure that you're playing with the Horizons expansion, and then you'll be able to land on the surface of the planet at the crashed Thargoid ship site again and continue collecting, slightly more successfully this time, these Thargoid sensor fragments. Now, if all of that seems like a bit of a cheesy exploit to you, well, yeah, you're probably right. Maybe just drive carefully, Jingles. Yeah. But at the same time, the Horizons expansion and this exploit has been around for 5 years, and if the developers cared, they'd find a way of patching it out. So I'm going to take advantage of it. Right, sensor fragments. I need 50 of them. I've got 1. Then again, as well as all the human wreckage scattered around the place, there are also these canisters of sensor fragments, so maybe these canisters contain more than 1. There's one right there. That could contain dozens of sensor fragments. So, well, I'll need the cargo scoop deployed first. Let's give it a go. Remember, I can only actually carry 2 canisters of anything in an SRV. It's not built for carrying cargo. Yeah, I'm still not sure about all these weird noises I keep hearing now that I'm at the heart of the Thargoid wreckage. But let's go ahead and try to scoop up one of these canisters of sensor fragments. There's one right there. Now I need to be careful, I don't want to flip on a rock or anything. It seems to be stuck underneath that piece of wreckage. So let's be really careful about this, because I wouldn't want to flip myself over and have to do the game mode switch again. Oh, I thought it was underneath that piece of weird wreckage. No, it is that piece of weird wreckage. Alright, cargo acquired. Looks like I'm going to live. Hey! I don't seem to have blown up or anything. Awesome. Right, there's an... What? Toxic cargo corrosion Something's melting my shield generator. Toxic cargo. It turns out that I'm experiencing something that had some fairly drastic implications when these things were first discovered in the game. They were originally just called unknown artifacts, and there was quite a brisk black market trade in them. But the emissions that they gave off started to shut stations down. And in fact, people started using them as a form of industrial espionage. They would smuggle them into stations, sell them on the black market, and then get the hell out of there, and then just, laugh in the distance as the station's systems started to shut down one after the other. So, that was nice. I had no idea of this at the time I was actually collecting these canisters, of course. I mean, they're all over the place here. They're not what I'm actually looking for, although they do contain what I'm looking for. I don't want the canisters of Thargoid sensors, I want the Thargoid sensors inside the canisters. There are Thargoid sensor fragments, engineering material Thargoid sensor fragments, the kind of things that don't take up cargo space, scattered around here as well. But like the canisters, you have to get very... Oh god, it's attacking my cargo hatch now. But like the canisters, you have to get really close before they show up on your sensors. Also, there aren't enough of them here. Not even for one engineer. Remember, I need 25 for both of the engineers. So 50 in total. And I think, although I can't quote you a precise figure, but even if I was to scoop up every single piece of Thargoid sensor fragment available at this crash site, I'd probably only get 11 or 12. So there are two ways that you can get around this problem. You've probably already figured out from previous experience what one of those methods is. Scoop up everything that you can, and then when you're done, just quit back to the main menu, then reload your game, and all of the sensor fragments and the canisters will have respawned. But you can improve the number of sensor fragments that you can actually pick up on each reload by shooting up the canisters. It took me a while to figure this out. None of the information that I'd read on this crash site actually suggested it as a solution, but the canisters can be targeted, and the canisters can be shot at by the dual repeaters mounted on the turret on top of your SRV. And when you blow up the canisters, they do scatter a couple of sensor fragments out as well. And doing that triples the number of sensor fragments that you're actually going to recover on each reload. And by doing this, it didn't take me nearly as long as I thought it would to collect all of the sensor fragments that I was going to need. Now, before you rush off to see Professor Palin in the Maya system and hand in these sensor fragments, you might want to stick around on this planet because there are all kinds of biological and geological sites that you can visit and plunder all kinds of raw engineering materials as well. Of course, if you're in a rush, then simply plot a course to the Maya system and its next stop, Professor Palin. Now remember, Professor Palin requires not only 25 sensor fragments, but also that you have travelled more than 5,000 light years from your career start position. And we did all of that when we were unlocking that utter bastard Marco Quent. And it's a very short jump from here to Maya. We're already in the vicinity. So next stop, Professor Palin. And he's going to allow us to apply engineering upgrades to our ship's thrusters. So he's going to be very useful. More speed is always a very, very good thing to have. If I can't outfight my opponent, and well, I can't outfight anything at the moment, being able to outrun them is the next best thing. So next stop, Maya. I've heard there's a black hole in this system actually, so that'll be worth stopping to check out and take a look at. What? What the fuck? Oh shit. Oh shit. What are those two red sensor contacts? Fuck, 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 fuck. No, I'm getting... Whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh, that's a bad sound. I really wish... Well, I kind of wish I could see what it was that's making that sound, but I'm not really sure I want to see what's making that sound. I just wish that it would stop making that sound. It's the thought. It's behind me, isn't it? Can I have my ship back now, please? I promise I'll be good. Oh, thank you. Thank you, thank you. 2 red contacts on my sensors. I've never seen contacts that look like that before. Just unknown. Ship doesn't know what they are. Is scanning them going to be seen as a hostile? Oh, I've got my engines back. It's worth the risk. I can't even see it. The ship doesn't even know what it's looking at. Ship scan failed, unknown interference. Yeah. Oh, it's jumped out. And it's left a wake. Wait, I've got a frameshift drive wake scanner. Maybe I can analyse it. Yeah, those were Thargoids. They pulled me out of hyperspace and I never even saw them. You can see the problems that you're going to have if you want to actually fight those things, because the ship can't even ID the target. There's some highly specialised equipment that you're going to need before you're even going to think of taking these things on. I can at least use the wake scanner. You know, that works. And new data discovered. Thargoid wake data. Encoded engineering data. No idea what I'm going to need that for, but better to have it than to not have it. And there's another one, so I can get 2 scans. That was my first encounter with the Thargoids. And apparently, I didn't realise this at the time, just dumb luck on my behalf, it was really lucky that I didn't actually transfer those Thargoid canisters into my ship's cargo bay, not least of which because, you know, it was going to start attacking my ship's systems. But apparently, also I've heard, the Thargoids really take a dim view of people carrying bits of Thargoid ships around in their cargo bays. So they pulled me out of hyperspace, they looked me over, decided I wasn't a threat, and let me go. But if I had Thargoid gear in my cargo hold... Oh shit. Okay, I'm not out of the woods yet. I think I might need to reboot my systems. But if I did have Thargoid gear in the cargo hold of the ship, they would have probably blown me away. So, that's nice. Okay, has that fixed? Oh. Please work, please work, please work. Everything's offline. That's fine, I got 7.5 minutes of life support. Well, it better not take that long. And we're back up. 0 modules repaired? What do you mean? Does my frameshift drive at least work now? Well, everything seems to be online. Let's try to fire it up. Oh. I'm gonna live. Oh, so that was my first encounter with the Thargoids. First encounter, which, by the way, was the name of the expansion for Frontier Elite 2 that introduced the return of the Thargoids way back in the mid-90s, I think. Anyway, next stop, fingers crossed, the Maya system. So we have one blue giant. And apparently there is also a black hole in this system. And a shit ton of planets. I mean, this system is going to be worth a fortune in astronavigational data. 50 different orbital bodies. I did a full system scan, and once it was complete, here is the system map. There are 8 stars in this system. 50 distinct, separate solar bodies. There's Maya A, the blue-white giant. 2.5 times the size of the Sun. Surface temperature of 15,000 Kelvin. Most of the stars in this system are just brown dwarfs, which technically are stars, but they're basically just gas giants that never made it as far as the salad bar. Well, I say there are 8 stars in this system. Technically there are 9, because there's also a black hole. Now I know you can't see the black hole. That's the black hole, Maya B. And you can't see it because it's black. That's the thing about black holes. Also, the space that they're set against is black. Look, it was funny when Red Dwarf did it. But it's also technically true because you can't see black holes. The only reason you can see anything is because your eye intercepts light that reflects off whatever it is that you're looking at. And that's what you're seeing. And light doesn't reflect off black holes. Light gets absorbed by black holes, so they are functionally invisible to the naked eye. But we still know they're there because of the effect that they have on space around them. And also on light around them. Because while black holes do absorb light, any light that goes around a black hole gets distorted. It's a feature that's known as gravitational lensing. Imagine there's an object on the far side of a black hole. Now, you can't see it because there's a black hole in the way, obscuring your vision. And any light reflected off that object, travelling in a direct line to you, is going to be absorbed by the black hole. But light that wouldn't ordinarily make it to your eye, in order for you to see the object on the far side of the black hole, that goes past the black hole, gets, well, distorted by the gravitational effect of the black hole. It kind of makes the light curve around it. So you can actually see stuff on the far side of a black hole through this process of gravitational lensing. And there it is, against the plane of the Milky Way. We can't actually see it. I mean, of course we can't actually see it. They're invisible to the naked eye. But even if it wasn't invisible to the naked eye, we wouldn't be able to see it from this distance. We're 12 million meters away. It would be too small to be seen with the naked eye, but you can still, even at this distance, clearly see the effect it's having on space around it. I'm still in Super Cruise, by the way. I haven't dropped into real space yet, because I've never seen a black hole in this game before. This is my first time. I have no idea how close I can safely get to it. Significantly closer now. Approaching 700 kilometers. Less than 700 kilometers. Wow, you can look at that. Oh, there's a tourist beacon a couple hundred kilometers closer in, so it must be safe to approach to at least that distance. So let's go ahead and do that and drop out a jump. And turns out that this is actually quite a famous tourist destination. Passenger liners full of tourists enjoying the view. Right, let's see if we can get a better look. It's difficult to know exactly where I'm supposed to be looking with the naked eye, so I mean, you can see the distortion, but we're going to lock onto it with the ship's sensors. Oh, it's over there. Right. Swing the ship around. Holy shit, look at that. 44 kilometers away from a black hole. Wow. Well, this is easily one of the most impressive sights I've seen so far on Elite Dangerous. And the Maya black hole isn't particularly big. I mean, I don't know how big it is, but I'm 44 kilometers away from it, so it can't be that big. Don't forget the Sagittarius A star black hole at the center of the galaxy. The supergiant black hole. That's a big black hole. Astronomers have estimated its size using really clever astronomer stuff that I only vaguely understand, as being 60 million kilometers across. Now, just to put that into perspective for you, that's bigger than the Sun. In fact, it's bigger than the orbit of Mercury around the Sun by a good 15 million kilometers. So that's a seriously fucking big black hole. And you can visit it in Elite. It's 26,000 light years from Earth, so it's on the to-do list, but probably not today. Anyway, time to go and see Professor Palin, who apparently is in the ARC system, not the Maya system. I'm not entirely sure why I came here, although I'm glad I did, because I've never seen a black hole in the game before. The guide that I'm following to get this engineering grind done, and I'll put a link to it down below in the video description, Fox's step-by-step guide to unlocking engineers. It's on Reddit, and it's an old guide. It's about 2 years old, probably more than that by now. It's possible that Professor Palin's location has moved, because the guide does still say hop to the Maya system and hand in your Thargoid sensor fragments, but he is actually... Oh, shit. Oh, not again. Oh, come on. Oh. Yeah. Okay. Oh, shit. Oh. Ah, fuck. Okay. Not carrying any of your stuff. So you can just, you know, you can just let me go, maybe? Maybe? Okay. Hello, Mr. Thargoid. Nice, Mr. Thargoid. And... oh, boy. Look at the way it's warping space in its wake. Where is it? Is this a regular thing in this neck of the woods? It's just that I'm finding it an awfully strange coincidence that I've been through this area of space a couple of times, but I never got interdicted by the Thargoids until I stopped at a crashed Thargoid ship and started picking through the wreckage. And then suddenly it's like they won't leave me alone. Anyway, it's all good. We can relax from Brown Alert. Although I might need to stop at the laundry at Professor Palin's base for a new pair of pants. And he's going to be my next stop, you know, Thargoid interdictions notwithstanding. And that's it for today's video. Next stop, Professor Palin. We're going to get our thrusters upgraded, and then it's on to bigger and better things with other engineers. I hope you've enjoyed this one. And as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.